We're ready for week 2 here at Fox 5 and the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. All season long, we're getting a behind-the-scenes look at the inner workings of the NFL, getting an inside the mind of a head coach. This is the Coach's Cut, and it starts right now. I'm Mike Davis. Welcome to the Coach's Cut. Thanks for joining us. Now it's time to meet the star of the show, playing tight end in the NFL for 14 seasons with the Seattle Seahawks, Washington Redskins, and the Minnesota Vikings. This 6'7" former college quarterback went on to become the tight end and offensive line coach for 5 franchises, eventually becoming the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. The one, the only, Mike Tice. Happy to be with you, Coach. You look spiffy today. I love this jacket.
This is my Oaks jacket. This is what I wear on Fridays in Louisville.
See, I love it. And you're saying it right, Louisville. All right, let's go to some Jimmies and Joes. So a tale of 2 quarterbacks, a tale of 2 halves. J.J. McCarthy and Caleb Williams flip-flopped on Monday night. McCarthy started slow but turned it on late, eventually leading his team to victory. On the other hand, Caleb started strong but folded late. Coach, what's your take on why that happened?
Yeah, that's a great point, Michael. What I saw when I went back and watched the game was J.J. McCarthy had a slow start. The Vikings could not get the ball, running the football going. Caleb was in rhythm. A lot of checkdowns, only really one intermediate throw. But as the game progressed, the Vikings ran the ball a little bit better. McCarthy settled down. They had all kinds of delay of game clock issues in the beginning of the game. They were not in rhythm, they being the Vikings. They finally got into rhythm, and Caleb started bolting. And when Caleb didn't have his first read there, he was taking off and looking to make plays on the run. He didn't play that poorly, but he didn't play good enough to win. And J.J. McCarthy hung in there and made the plays when he had to make the plays. He played exceptionally well enough to win NFC Offensive Player of the Week.
On prime time, and now JJ is set to face Michael Penix Jr., another second-year quarterback from last year's draft class, and another primetime game for the Vikings, your Vikings coach. So if you had your pick, I'm curious, between those guys we see on the screen, J.J. McCarthy, Caleb Williams, and Michael Penix Jr., all from last year's class, who would you want as your franchise quarterback?
Well, let me tell you, all 3 are going to be great players. But right now, the guy that I think he's really strong is Michael Penix Jr. Michael, I went back and watched that game again this morning. Michael is an accurate thrower. He's big. He knows how to get through his progressions. He actually had the game won for them with a rushing touchdown late in the game, only to have Baker go down and throw that ball to Emeka and win the game. I like Michael Penix, but I like all 3. But you know, that whole class, there were 6 quarterbacks drafted in the top 12. You can't leave out, of course, Jaden Daniels. Drake May was picked number 3, the one that the Raiders played against last week in New England. And of course, Bo Nix was number 12. Could this be another 1983 when Kelly, Marino, and Elway were drafted? Who knows? We'll see as the season progresses.
Hey, NFL fans would love to see that. Some great Hall of Famers there. Okay, so from quarterback to wide receiver, a lot of rookies had a good showing in week 1, but perhaps the strongest showing, you just mentioned him, was from Tampa Bay's rookie wide receiver out of Ohio State, Emeka Egbuka. The 22-year-old, fresh off a national championship, was selected 19th overall in April's draft, and in his debut, he had 2 touchdowns, one of them, Coach, being a game winner. So, Coach, why do you think Ohio State is becoming a wide receiver factory for the NFL?
Well, first of all, let's be real. They're getting the elite athletes.
Yes.
So Ohio State, the Alabamas of the world, the Georgias of the world, they're getting the elite athletes. So that's number 1.
Okay.
Number 2, you get guys like Marvin Harrison, who was drafted last year, Garrett Wilson, and Olavi, that was drafted in New Orleans 2 years ago. Jackson Smith Njigba from Seattle, and of course at 19, Terry McLaurin. They have one thing in common. You know what it is, Mike?
What is it?
I'm going to tell you. It's Brian Hartline, the wide receiver coach. Brian Hartline played in the NFL. Here he is for the Dolphins. He was the wide receiver coach since 2018. There's no coincidence. These guys know how to run NFL routes, know how to use their hands, and know how to run the route tree.
Okay, so I might be a little stupid here, Coach, but tell me, what is a route tree?
Well, a route tree, as you see it up here on the screen, good job, James. So the outside breaking routes are normally numbered odd numbers, and the shorter the route, the lower the number. You'll see the 9 route, that's a go. You see the 7, that's a corner route. You see the 8, the inside breaking routes are normally even numbers. That's a post. So what Brian's able to do is, being a former NFL player, teach these young players the route tree in college, teach them how to use their hands getting off the line of scrimmage, and that gives them a better opportunity to be an elite player earlier in their NFL careers.
And when you marry, I mean, these elite athletes with the knowledge of the NFL and those route trees, it's no question and no wonder why these guys are having success early on in the NFL.
Absolutely.
All right, so guys, next up we have a Super Bowl winning head coach joining us. His team won Super Bowl 35, taking down the Giants in dominant fashion. After the break, former Ravens head coach Brian Billick joins Coach Tice in conversation.
This week I had the chance to catch up with an old friend of mine, Brian Billick, a guy I coached with in Minnesota under Coach Dennis Green. We spoke about analytics and artificial intelligence and how coaches use both to win football games. He was also my tight end coach for 2 years, and here's the interview with my friend Brian Billick. I'm still an old-fashioned guy. I still look at the analytics of the turnover ratio, the winning first and second down, third down conversions, red zone touchdowns, and you had already alluded to that. But if you were a head coach running the show today, what of those analytics, and it might be all the ones I just named, what of those analytics would you emphasize to your staff and your team that are important to, as you used to say, important to winning the Super Bowl? Because really, isn't that all that matters?
At the end of the day, because that's all you're going to be judged by. So you're right. For me, it's what can I do with this? And some of the ones that you mentioned, yes, now as a coach, I can do something with that. The biggest two have long been, have been before, and are now and always will be touchdown and explosive. I used to call them toxics, turnovers and explosive plays. Not because it hits both sides of the ball. You can't just create turnovers. You have to not turn the ball over. You don't just create explosive plays. You don't want to give them up. So as a play caller, as you know, you have to have a mentality that knowing that those two, if you have those two, you're going to win the game like 90% of the time. It's a matter of creating a basis from which, if you need to become more aggressive, because we're not getting enough explosive plays, now you can act on that. Okay. In the same way, the biggest thing also is what's the flow of the game. The biggest thing I see coming in this area is possibly AI. Because as you know, we'd sit in game plan and you'd come in my office and say, Coach, when they're going to blitz in this situation, and when they do, these are the protections we need to be in. Okay, great. And we'd try to identify, okay, second medium, first down to start a series. Where can we isolate where we can make a play call in anticipation of it? But it changes during the course of the game. You know this is a play call. You and I were offensive play callers. Defensive play callers the same way. You're constantly looking for tendencies that your opponent may have by down, distance, situation, personnel, and where you are in the game. And the hard part was, if you and I are calling plays and we think this the guy we're facing does certain things in second medium in the open field, but the score differential is 0, as opposed to in the fourth quarter when they're up by 14 or you're ahead by 7 in the third, now it changes because we all have tendencies that way. You try to isolate them, but in real time it's hard. AI may have, you got to put the right data in to say, okay, in these situations, I want to run these kind of plays. And if AI can identify, okay, this is, you're down by 7, you've not run the ball particularly well, your opponents had a lot of explosive plays, and you're on a 2nd and 5 in the high red zone. If that has a certain tendency of which it can help you, okay, here's one of the 4 plays you might want to run. We can't do that as humans. Our experience is we try to do that, but AI may take that to another level where it can identify it. The question is, can it do it substantially enough to really give you an edge?
Into Madden football.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
It might be what it's going to turn into. But I think, and why I brought you in, it's just important that as fans get all enamored with these stats, they got to remember, as a coach and as a guy that's trying to win, to question some of the decisions the coaches make. You got to understand the numbers and the analytics we look at as coaches is a little bit different than what the fans are looking at for their prop bets.
Yeah, the analytics have always been the big thing in the league now is going for it on 4th and 2 and less. Okay, that's the big thing. Analytics say that this leads to, and I've always said, okay, but I want the guy that tells me that standing by me on the sideline when we play the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm on my minus 25-yard line. I go for it on 4th and 1 because I want everybody in the stadium to know that this is the son of a that said this is what we should do. So here's the problem. Part of the problem with analytics and the numbers. And they're all very legitimate, but statistics will tell you that the average American family has 2.3 children, 100% accurate, wholly actionable. The problem is it's 100% wrong in actual life, right? Because nobody has a 0.3 kid. So some of the statistics that you bring in, you have to look at, okay, is this work in an isolated situation? Or if it's just over a large body, well, I don't know if I'm going to last that long. You brought up you talk about winning a Super Bowl. The analytics that we bought into in our Super Bowl team, because we had such a phenomenal defense, we weren't really good throwing the ball, but we were second in the league in rushing. So clearly the formula for us, turnovers, we can't turn the ball over, emphasis for us, and our team was pretty good at getting turnovers. We were good at not giving up explosive plays. We weren't going to be really good at getting explosive passes, but we did have a good running game with Jamal Lewis. So we could get the explosive runs, and he was outstanding at that. So that's exactly the formula because we knew this combination works for us. Now, when we were in Minnesota together in '98 and we had Randy Moss and Chris Carter, now that changes. Now, okay, we're going to get the explosive plays in the passing game. We also had it in the running game with Robert Smith, obviously. So we were willing to take more chances because that offset some of the tendencies maybe to turn the ball over. And our defense could say, look, our offense is doing this. All we have to do is don't give up big plays because they can't put together a lot. So Foge Fazio, our defensive coordinator, could use the reverse that says, okay, my offense is doing this. They're going to win the turnover battle. They're going to get explosive plays. They're going to chew up the clock with a good running game. We only have to be so aggressive. We don't have, as long as we don't give up the big play, they're not going to be able to go 8, 10, 12 play drives enough times to win the game. So there was an actual actionable as a coaching staff, and Denny Green was brilliant in putting us in that mode to say, this is the team we are. So this is how we're going to win. This is how we have to game plan.
And with all of that, I remember those days, and those were good days, weren't they? Yeah.
They were the best.
To watch the full interview, just go to our YouTube page at Silver State Sports.
All right, after the break, Coach Tice is giving out some free advice. It's the keys to victory for the Raiders. 3 things they need to do to beat the Chargers on Monday Night Football. Welcome back to the Coach's Cut with Mike Tice. Mike Davis here with you. So, Coach, last week you gave us 3 keys to victory for the Raiders. A strong showing in Week 1. The Raiders steal one on the road from the Patriots, 20-13. Give us a quick recap, Coach, on why the Raiders won in Week 1.
Well, we talked about running the football. Although they had the carries, Gentry had 19 carries. They didn't run the ball very well. And we talked about that big front they were playing against, and it was going to be tough sledding. Create turnovers. They were 0 in that differential that Brian Billick was talking about in his interview. That doesn't hurt you. But we said they have to be explosive in the passing game. And the Raiders had 9 20-plus yard receptions last week. That's the most they've had since 1991. We said our tight ends have to have a big day. And I'll tell you, they did. They had 9 catches for 141 yards. Brock had 5 catches for 103 yards before he got injured. Good day for the Raiders and big win.
Okay, great stuff there. All right, so this week, though, a tougher test as the Raiders have a division battle at home versus the Chargers on Monday Night Football. What are the 3 things they need to do to get that win on Monday Night Football?
They got to get that running game going. They got to run the ball efficiently. By that, I mean they got to get 4 yards on first down, and when it gets to second down, they got to get more than half. They got to give themselves some manageable third downs. They got to get after the quarterback, Justin Herbert. Not only in the passing game and pass rush, but also keep him contained. He had 7 carries for 32 yards last week and 3 first downs. Those things kill you when the quarterback takes off. And the last thing is create explosives. You keep hearing Brian Billick talk about explosives. And I'm not only talking about the plus 20 in the passing game, we got to get some plus 10-yard runs this week. And that's what the Raiders have to do to victory. Now, what else they got to do is stop those game records. And that's those 3 wide receivers that they have. Quentin Johnston, 7 catches, 2 touchdowns last week. Ladd McConkey, 9 targets, 6 catches. And Keenan Allen, 10 targets, 7 catches, 1 TD. But more importantly, he had 6 first down catches. That's the man's go-to guy. Those 3 guys together had 18 catches, 221 yards, and 3 TDs. We got to shut down those receivers.
It's fascinating stuff because you always think with the Jim Harbaugh football team, they're going to run the ball well. Or Marion Hampton, rookie running back, didn't show a lot in week 1, but they've been throwing the ball really well. So we'll see what happens there. Those 3 wideouts, especially Ladd McConkey. That's a good player right there. All right, don't go anywhere, guys. It's time for odds and ends when we return. Welcome back to the Coach's Cut with Mike Tice. It's time for odds and ends. This is where we get those great little nuggets, Coach, where we learn the game behind the game. So I'm curious, watching, the start of the season as a former head coach, what do you think is the best way a lot of these teams can punch a ticket into the playoffs?
Well, there are some statistical things that Brian and I alluded to, and I keep going back to Coach Billick because he's a Super Bowl winning coach, is that are very critical to winning in the National Football League or getting to the playoffs. I love all the next-gen stats. They're great. They're great for the fans. But as coaches, as we talked about, there are some things that are significant that you have to do. And one of them, the first, and it always has been, is the turnover ratio. And what I mean by that is you turn the ball over and you get turnovers. At the end of the day, you have to be a plus. Let's take an example of the first week in the National Football League. Any team that was +1 or better in the turnover ratio went 8-1. Okay, that's pretty significant. Okay, let's look at it on the other side. The teams that went -1 in the turnover ratio, those teams were 1-8.
Wow, that's very telling.
And the 2 ones are anomalies because Denver won the game and they were -2. And the Titans lost the game and they were +2. So that's kind of an anomaly.
Gotcha.
Okay, now the teams that are 0, like the Raiders, typically at the end of the season, Mike, a team that's 0 in the turnover ratio or +1 or -1, just hovering around that 0, are going to be about a 500 ball club. Last week, teams that zeroed out were 7-7.
Right, so a 0 is like the Raiders had a pick, but they also gave up a pick.
Exactly, and that's what a 0 means for the fans out there. Now, the second thing that's, again, I keep alluding to my guy, Brian Billick, but explosive runs of +10. So it's hard. We used to do +12, but all the statistics you look at and all of these websites and the NFL, they use +10 as explosive runs. The top 10 teams in +10 runs last year, 7 of those top 10 teams made the playoffs.
Gotcha.
Okay? The next one that's important, and these are just historical stats that coaches look at that really allude to, like you said, winning. Third down conversion percentage. That's a big one because, it keeps the change going. The teams, again, that were in the top 10 in percentage of converting on third down, guess what? 7 of those 10 teams made the playoffs in 2024. But I got one more for you.
Oh, okay,
I got
4.
One more. Red zone scoring touchdowns.
Yes,
not
that's
kicking.
big.
That's real big. Okay? Last year, 10 teams of the top 10 teams that made the playoffs, you want to guess how many? 7 of the top 10 teams made the playoffs. So those are statistical things that coaches have looked at for years and years and years, and those really correlate more to winning and getting in the playoffs. That's what's really, like Brian said, it's really what's so important.
So, question for you there. So, it's 1 week in.
Right.
If a team isn't doing those things in week 1, is it panic mode for a coach, or is a coach just saying, "Listen, this is where we got to get better"? And if you did a great job at that week 1, does that mean you're going to hold that all season long?
Well, what you have to do as a head coach is you sit down with your staff, you talk about the things we're talking about, the 3 things it takes to win the game. They might not be the 3 that was my observation of what the Raiders have to do. That might be totally different coming from the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and the head coach. But these things I'm talking about are traditionally things that at the end of the year, this is where it's going to put you. So you have to focus on things. If you didn't do it the first week, no time to panic. Let's explain to the players why we didn't do it.
Gotcha.
Tell them what we have to do to be able to get to our goal.
Okay, we got about 90 seconds left here, Coach. I want some more nuggets. Give
All
me
right,
some more
I'm going to give you a couple nuggets. All right, the first one I'm going to give you, there was only 2 undefeated home teams last year, the Bills and the Chiefs. The Bills are 1-0 at home. The Chiefs have a chance to continue that against the Eagles this week and stay undefeated at home going into 2025. That's number 1.
Okay, second nugget.
Second nugget, shout out to those 2 young rookie tight ends
Yes.
from Indianapolis, Ty Warren from Penn State and Fannin Jr. from Cleveland. Those 2 both had 7 catches and broke the rookie record for the most catches in their first game. Shout out to those tight ends.
They both look good, and you know what's so fascinating? One kid comes from Penn State, the other Bowling Green, so it doesn't matter. You could come from any school and pop, and right when you get into the
Unbelievable,
NFL.
and go tight ends.
It's hey, we love our tight ends. Tyler Warren, that's my guy in fantasy. Love that guy. I love this guy too. Coach, great stuff this week. That's it for this edition of The Coach's Cut with Mike Tice. For producer James and editor Jess, I'm Mike Davis. We'll see you next time on the show. Good stuff, Coach.